All right, Matt, now we're getting into another episode or another segment of Fight Night Picks Parry and Counter. And the point of Parry and Counter is we're accepting your fan questions, and a lot of people have been active on YouTube. Throw out a question under any video you want. Call us out if you want. You can do whatever. But we've got some really great questions. We're going to get into another good one. This one comes at us from Ricky Pointing, who asked, video on biggest upset which has a chance to happen in the UFC in 2020. Ricky, great question, really, because we have a lot of good matchups already set in stone, but this is where we get a chance to get a little sketchy. Maybe there's some matchups that we could see happening that we're going to predict and then pick an upset. And upsets are tough to pick. Like, if you go back and watch any of our predictions, listen, people ragged on us for not picking Tristan Connolly to beat Michelle Pereira, which was
guys.
Upset of the year. Or, Daniel Hernandez beating Tim Means, which one of us picked.
That's true.
And it wasn't you.
But that's fine. Dude, just underdogs are so... It's a sport where you can do everything right for 99% of it and still lose. Like, in basketball, you can't be down by 20, hit a basket with 2 minutes left, and all of a sudden score 21 points. MMA is the only sport where there is kind of that checkmate moment in it, unlike, basketball, football, whatever. So that's why it's just so hard to predict these fights.
Matt, I like how you really frame that one, because it gets us into a fight that I could see it going either way. And you talk about one of those Hail Marys in the last 5 or 10 seconds. I mean, look at any Derek Lewis fight, more or less. But look at a lot of Derek Lewis fights, especially the Volkov fight, where you got beat the entire, just about, 14 minutes of that fight, and then in the last minute, he gets a knockout win. Look at Alistair Overeem and Jairzinho Rozenstruik and what happened near the end. And Matt, I think that's where you were going to go.
Exactly. So for potential upsets, and it's kind of tough too because we don't really know what the state of a lot of these UFC cards are going to be. But what was supposed to be this weekend's main event next weekend, was Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Francis Ngannou. Now, I'm not going to lie. I think Francis would have won that fight. I just think he's a little bit better everywhere. But heavyweight's the one division where it doesn't really matter what the ranking is next to their name. When you weigh 260 pounds, and that's what both these guys do, these aren't just two of the best strikers in the heavyweight division. They're two of the biggest heavyweights out there as well. And also, we don't really see heavyweights throw head kicks. Jairzinho Rozenstruik throws head kicks like most heavyweights throw jab. It's just very easy for him. He's that high level of a striker. So when you're dealing with guys of, just their power, their skill caliber, and the type of fighting styles in which they employ, I could easily see Jairzinho going out there and knocking out Francis. I don't believe it's going to happen, but of all the upsets that are most likely to in the near future, I do think that's one of them. Just due to the division more than anything.
And it's weird because Jairzinho Rozenstruik's one of those guys that in the fight against Overeem, there were a lot of people picking Rozenstruik, and then into that last round, there were a lot of people that weren't feeling it. I mean, Alistair Overeem, it was pressure. He wasn't doing the weird demolition man where he was backing away. It was actually, and he was giving the fight to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, which is in typical fashion in the way that he wins fights. 100%. I mean, go back and watch the fight against Sergey Pavlovich in his UFC debut. He was just pouring it on him. Same thing with Rozenstruik, whereas at the end, Rozenstruik able to get the win there. The other thing with him is cardio. He does have good cardio. He's a former kickboxing champ. That's his background. And how many fighters do we see from Suriname make it onto the big stage at the top of the UFC? So I think that's actually a good pick. I mean, I'm picking Francis Ngannou to win the fight. But could I see an upset happen? Yeah, 100%. And I bet you in terms of the odds that there's probably, in terms of parity, not a whole lot there.
No, so I couldn't imagine.
I think that's a really good pick. The one that I'm going to go with, and it's a fight that we do have some odds on certain sites, go over to Best Fight Odds. That's typically what we'll do, and then we'll look at every single site that has odds. But in terms of futures, Jan Blachowicz and Jon Jones. And we've seen it with Jon Jones recently, where since he's come back since the layoff, I mean, he's faced good fighters.
What are you getting at, Craig?
There was an entire card moved just for him from Nevada to California against Alexander Gustafsson. But the Santos fight, the Smith fight, the Reyes fight, there's questions. Yeah. And if Jan Blachowicz fights Jon Jones, Blachowicz a plus 400 underdog on one site right now. But I'm sure he'll probably be a steady underdog going into that. I could see Jan Blachowicz getting a win. Out of all of these guys, Jan Blachowicz right now, he's over 35. He's a former KSW light heavyweight champ. How many light heavyweights do they have that have really cracked it? Not a whole lot. But Jan Blachowicz is very consistent. We haven't seen a lot of inconsistency from him. And at 205 pounds, he's one of those guys that just keeps winning in steady fashion and by finish. And the question that I had in one of the fights, and listen, a lot of people were sleeping on Nikita Krylov. And he just beat Johnny Walker, and you can say, what does that matter? But Nikita Krylov, Jan Blachowicz, I was worried that if Krylov brings the fight to the ground, he's going to finish Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz submitted him.
Yeah, easily too.
His striking right now looks absolutely fantastic. You can say, hey, it's against Luke Rockhold, it's against Beastin 25-8 Corey Anderson, but still, the power he possesses, the left hook, and just the straight volume that he can throw with power, I think it proves a really good and tough test against Jon Jones.
But also similar to kind of what you said to me, I would 100% favor Jon Jones in that fight, but I do agree. It also... I think that has less to do with how good Jan Blachowicz is, though, and more of the decline that we've seen from Jon Jones as of late. Now, of course, Jon Jones is still beating all these top contenders if you look at the actual record, but when you're watching the performances, Jon doesn't wrestle at all anymore. It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. He doesn't even go for takedowns. It's not like he's a guy who... Let's say if Kamaru Usman stopped going for takedowns and every fight looked like the coming to fight, he's probably not going to be champion for that long. Like, he needs to employ them and mix it up very well. Jon Jones is good enough that he can not wrestle and still get the wins, but when you look at how he is at his best, look at the second Gustafsson fight. He took him down, got on top, and landed some of those hellacious ground and pound we've ever seen.
And that's where I would go with it, because stylistically, I think Jan Blachowicz and Alexander Gustafsson are close enough where you can make a comparison to the fact that Jones would have to bring the fight to the ground.
I do agree. I just feel like the speed of Gustafsson's so much different than what Jan Blachowicz brings to the table. Jan, yes, if he hits you, it's going to hurt a lot worse, but the problem is Gustafsson might pepper you 5 times and not be able to land that big 6th shot. Jan's just going to be waiting for that big shot for a lot of it. But no, I could definitely see Jon Jones, he's been a lot more stagnant as of late. His defense is still really good, don't get me wrong, but he's much more hittable now in this stage of his career than he ever has been before. And when you're dealing with a guy like Jan Blachowicz, who, just the massive power he has in his hands, and I know he had a bit of a bad fight with Jacare, it wasn't very entertaining, but when you do look at his stoppage victories, he can get it done on the feet by knockout, he can get it done on the ground due to submission, and defensively, he's really good on the feet and on the ground. I mean, Jacare, yes, he's a little bit older in his career.
But he just shot for takedowns.
Exactly.
It just didn't happen.
And Jan was able to defend them, keep it to the feet, be really technical in his approach. So no, I do think that is another good one. Lastly, too, just to throw a third one in there, if Masvidal fights Kamaru Usman, again, I would favor Kamaru Usman. I would assume he's going to be a pretty heavy favorite in that fight. But when you just look at what Masvidal's been able to do, primarily the wrestlers, too, he's been able to knock a lot of them out, which is a little dangerous if you're Kamaru Usman. Of course, I would pick Kamaru Usman in that fight, but there's so many fights coming up that... And even in title fights, the skill level's so high between the challenger and the champion that no matter what the odds show, both guys aren't just the best. Like, they're the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. Like, you have to be so good to get to that level in the first place that any title fight, there is a decent chance for an upset.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the Masvidal Usman, but I get where you're coming from, and I can certainly see the parallels between them. And I think, listen, you could list off a whole bunch of upsets, and please do in the comments. We'll try and run through some of them. And also throw some more questions at us for Fight Night Picks Parry Counter. But there's so many ones out there. There's so many fights that don't have odds. There's so many fights that are rumored
Here's
to happen.
Here's what I guarantee. If Clarissa Shields ever fights Amanda Nunes is going to submit her in 30 seconds.
She's a minus 700 favorite right now.
Reason.
But we really appreciate it. I mean, there have been great questions. We still have some more to answer today, so make sure you throw them at us over on YouTube. And for Fight Night Picks, with not just Parry Counter, with our Cage Warriors 113 picks, with everything, we love to say it, Matt. Let's get into it.